Can we say shit on here?
Yeah.
Cool, we can say shit.
I would say shit a lot more if I got that shit. Swear I was smart.
Let me get a picture of y'all for the social.
In a former life, I was an artist, a hip hop artist, and having traveled, all over the country and in parts of the world, performing and doing hip hop. I was always a part of or involved in different festivals. And as I started transitioning out of being an artist and kind of getting into a kind of behind the scenes thing and kind of working with the community in the city, realizing the rich heritage that Mississippi has in the music world, how much respect we have, all of the great musical talents that have come out of this state, how we have, been a catalyst for a lot of different forms of music, whether it be blues, whether it be country music, even in R&B and hip hop, as of late. I thought that it would be a perfect platform for something in the vein of South by Southwest. Was kind of my inspiration for it. I said, why can't we do that here in the city of Jackson? Why are we not able to do that very same thing? We have the very same wealth of talent that other places have. We have very engaged, intelligent, smart people who are knowledgeable about the business, who are knowledgeable about putting events together. And it just so happened at the time that I was working for the city of Jackson in the Department of Human and Cultural Services as the marketing specialist. And I was lucky enough to have a budget. I was lucky enough to have the resources to be able to do it. So I came up with the concept for Jackson Indie Music Week to say we're going to celebrate independent music in the city of Jackson and independent music in the South for 7 days, which is something that's not done anywhere else. They celebrate for about a weekend or maybe a few days, but we wanted to celebrate from a Sunday to another Sunday. We want to celebrate independent music in the South, starting with Mississippi artists. And as I usually do anything, music oriented, one of the first people that I called was Garrad. And, my little sister became involved and a bunch of other very engaged people in the music business and the community here in Jackson. And we got in a room and I was like, look guys, this is an idea that I have. I know that I can't do it by myself. There has to be a collaborative effort. It has to be a team effort. I need you guys' help. Is this something that y'all want to be involved in? And luckily, everybody said yes, and that was a couple of years ago, and pretty much everybody has kind of stuck around since then. This has become a labor of love, and I'm just really blessed to have the people who are as loyal to it and as dedicated and as serious about it as I am. And everybody that stuck around has really made this thing kind of grow, and it's going to become a great thing. And even when all of us are going on to other endeavors, hopefully there will be a group of people that will keep this going. So that's kind of how it started.
We do all of our lineups through submissions. So we do a call for submissions, artists submit, and there's a listening committee. We have like 50 plus artists this year that made it, over 100 submissions, well over 100 submissions I think. So going through all of that, we do waves of submission dates and stuff. Knowing that like you're listening to something that's cool and has potential, but it's not quite there yet, or somebody who really thinks they should be there, but they're obviously not there. And so deciding all of that, and both of them said like they were wide open with what we do, and people have their different expertise. Like I come from a hip hop background, me and Brad, or actually all three of us, but we have all these other folks do that. And it's just the fun part is like listening and coming to an agreement about stuff. The difficult part is, knowing that you're hurting someone's feelings or breaking their heart or giving them a reality check. And then once we have the artist picked, what I found the most challenging is putting the lineups together, because we spread out over a dozen or so different venues over the city. And ideally you want to do like a rock showcase and things like that, but it ends up just mixing up so much. It has to be like a way that we see it fit together. So. But at the end of the night, like if you're standing there at midnight, the show's ending, it's great, because you can see it all come together.
I think the venues too are important, like strategically placing certain acts at certain venues, because venues already have an established crowd or audience that they cater to in most instances. And so I think that's also an element of decision making that's important. And so I love them. I love their music just because they don't even have a singer, like a lead singer or no song. no songwriting, no vocalists, anything like that. And I was just gone off of their music and how they meshed together so well. Like that was just inspiring for me that like you don't have to have somebody rapping or singing or it's just music, and it was just so pure. And then the women's showcase, Young Jules, she was just so powerful up there on stage and so in control, and her lyrics were so
She talks so much shit.
yeah, like I love a trash talker, right? That was just like her lyrics were so strong, and she just had this swagger. And then I go back to Betsy Berryhill because this was like her first time really putting herself out there, and she's a songwriter, and she's folksy and has this edge to her, and her voice sounds so pure. So it was just like there's three different lanes, three different genres of music, and it was just like beautiful.
I mean, my story, like, was away from Mississippi for several years, and my wife and I moved back in 2009, and my little brother, who was a DJ, and he had a pretty big name for himself up in like North Mississippi, and so he was coming here. We were gonna do this big Christmas show, so I hit up all my old rapper friends, and there were several of them. We put a big show together. And I was working with this one rapper, and I met Kaz at Koinonia, I think it was. We sat down and talked, and we had promoted the show well. I'd never really done that much before, but I was, helping. I've done that a little bit for my little brother, but doing that. So Kaz was like, "You should keep doing this." And, even people my age were having a hard time getting into venues, or they were having a hard time being taken seriously. No one was writing about them in the local paper until I was, And I was like, wow, this is more so than just like being their friend and like doing something. We can actually like something happen here. And so
I think for me, like, one of the events that I'm more intimately involved in during the week that I kind of like put my stamp on is like the Icon Awards event. And the Icon Awards event is our award ceremony where we pay homage to the icons of independent music in the state and people that have kind of paved the way for our music scene here. And those are the people that I kind of grew up watching how they moved around, the Malcolm Whites that Hal Miles and Artie Barnett and Lee King and Jesse Thompson and Charlie Braxton and Drake Elder and Bebop. Those are the people as a young artist, like, if it wasn't for Drake and his wife, when, Crooked Letters was coming out and we first got signed, Bebop was really instrumental in our success. And then we went independent and were really instrumental in helping us to be independent artists as well. Arden and Malcolm were people who started this whole promotions game. They were the first guys, including along with Drake, they were the first people to bring big shows to the city of Jackson back in the 70s and the 80s. And Lee King was instrumental in bringing some of the big R&B shows here. So to be able to pay homage to them, those are the people that I kind of grew up watching, and being able to know them and being able to pick their brain and having them to come to us and say, we like what you guys are doing, we're proud of what you guys are doing, if there's anything that you need, we can help you doing it. And these are people, like Garrad was saying, these are people that I looked up to, coming up, and to be able to give them their flowers while they're here, first of all, and then to be able to pick their brains and learn from them and see how they've been successful. These are people that have been successful long term, doing the very same thing we're trying to do on our end. To be able to see the progression of where we come from those guys to where we're at now, to even now the younger people that we have helping us in the volunteering now that we're trying to bring into the fold. So that knowledge is continually passed down. So I think for me, that's the most important thing, because we can't just stop here.
if this is going to be sustainable, then you're going to want to teach people how to be an indie artist, so we can continue to have indie artists. You know, you meet a new artist and they're cool, they're rough around the edges, but then they're like, all right, talk to my manager. I'm like, yo, you do not need a manager right now. You do not need to be kicking back 10% of a little bit of money you're making to a manager, because you can learn how to do all this right here. So I think, you know, our panels were like literally like how to promote yourself, how to get recorded, you know, like having, you know, last year I moderated the one where we had a copyright lawyer and Lil Wayne's tour DJ, you know, all that kind of stuff to say, look at all these little different elements, and a couple of us book local shows, because a lot of people don't get that, and they don't realize you can be an artist and sustain it, you know, on your own, or learn some things to make sure you put the right people around you. So I think for me, coming from also an education background, It's one thing, you don't want to be like exploitative of the artists that you're working with, and so you say, here, we can provide this to you and other people that want to come. And I noticed those panels would be a lot of artists I knew that didn't submit because they weren't quite sure if they should yet. I think those panels actually end up empowering some people to say like, oh my God, I could have done this, and people would have been here to help me out, you know. Just speaking for me, that was, I think it's hugely important to us in the beginning, was to do something to give back some kind of information to artists, especially knowing a lot of artists who were probably nervous about saying, am I good enough for this, or am I too good for this, or whatever it was, you know. Then ultimately we offered something to them. And again, Brad spoke to this, knowing your markets. You know who like can sell out a venue, or you know who can fill up a room on a given night. It doesn't matter wholly, but it does factor in, because you're like, well, we definitely want to have them, but we're going to go ahead and give them one of the premier, know that they're going to anchor one of the premier spots, you know. So, but also there was, you know, moving down the list, there's artists who are like, you know, they were on last year, and in our satellite events, like the things we do throughout the year, we try to mix that up more and get some old, you know, a mix of older people and people who haven't been involved. But the submission committee is as pure as it can be. From there, we're not playing favorites. There's people on the submission committee that their band has submitted music, you know, and we sit there in my living or in my dining room and listen to all their songs just like we do everyone else and make our notes, you know. So we try to keep it fairly pure, but again, it's very important being in a city like Jackson, knowing who can do what. And then there's artists that just didn't submit because they forgot, or they're going to be out of town. You're like, man, I sure wish they could headline Thursday night and so, but they didn't submit, and that's that. You know what I'm saying? We didn't go like knocking on any doors. Like I nudged a few people like in between a couple dates, but no, I mean it was pure. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The festival has to be able to sell itself, and people want to be a part of it because they know, regardless of if they know the bands, they know that it's going to be quality. So.
For me, it's people asking if we're doing it again next year. You know, there's certain, you know, most of us that are involved on the upper end of this, you know, people would expect us to be involved with it because of what we do, you know. And so when you get thanked for doing it, or like someone older than me even is like, man, I really wish something like this happened, you know, back then. And then they say, are you going to do it next year? And that's when I'm like, yeah, we're doing something cool here, you know, because you saw the increase in attendance and submissions and participation, which was dope. But, you know, because people want you to keep doing it, you know. And then for me, the next step of that is finding younger folks, like I think Brad mentioned a minute ago, to pass it off to, you know. So like, what can I do to help? Like, younger photographers, and we had a bunch of new volunteers this year that were younger that I didn't even know. Like I, you know, met people, and hopefully, you know, they like it enough to want to participate in it, and that means a lot. So I think all of us did this with the idea of like, how cool can this be in 5 years? You know, we're halfway there now. When you think about it, you know, in 5 years. So seeing that, you know, people asking you even now, like, how's it going with the music week? To me, that's the most exciting.
For me, it's just kind of like putting the puzzle together at the culmination of the week when it's set up, and we're going to all the different venues and we're watching all the different artists take the stage, and those that are really new, first time, you know, maybe performing. And so I think the one that we did at House and Cabanas, it was the Women's Showcase. That was our first time doing a Women's Showcase. And it was just inspiring for me to see women get up there and feel empowered and to showcase their talents. And we really had some strong, you know, female artists. And so, and then from that, seeing the platform that Jackson Music Week gives artists and how that branches off into something else, because we've had a couple artists appear on Fox 40, you know, performing from that stem from Jackson Music Week. And I think one of them was Betsy Berry Hill, and she had that video got so many views, like, and just watching her and reaching out to her and asking her, did she want to do it, and her being a little nervous, but this is just, you know, another benefit from performing at something.
And it's something we provided.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that for me is just watching it all unfold, watching all the puzzle pieces come together, and then watching the artists take the stage and saying like, dang, you got a part of this, and then maybe one day they'll get famous and they'll remember. It all started with Jackson Music Week. Y'all remember that?
Yeah.
Growing up in Mississippi and being from Mississippi, unfortunately, kids all over the state are, you know, classically told that, you know, they're inferior that Mississippi is last and everything. Mississippi is not as good, that if you plan on being successful in anything, that you have to leave here. The brain drains are real. We are proving to people that you don't have to go anyplace else. We're proving to people that we are just as smart as anybody. I mean, one of the main reasons why I came up with this idea is because I don't believe that people in Austin, Texas are smarter than me. I don't believe that people in Atlanta or in Los Angeles or the people that do Bonnaroo or the people that do Voodoo Fest, I don't think they're any smarter than I am. I don't think they can outwork me. So just because I'm from Mississippi, it doesn't mean that those things that we've classically been told we've had to export ourselves or go someplace else to be able to participate. I don't believe that we have to do that. We can do that right here. And in the next few years, when we reach that 5-year mark, we want Jackson Indie Music Week to rival all of those other festivals that exist. And I believe that we can do that. When I came up with the idea, it was just, we're going to do it. I didn't know how we were going to do it. I didn't have any idea how we were going to pull off what we were going to pull off, but I knew that we were going to pull it off, and I knew that we were going to complete it. And I think when people see that if you can initiate that first step and just come up with an idea and make it come to fruition, I think that just proves that, you know, we can have stuff here just like everybody else does. So Jackson Indie Music Week is just that culmination of all of us coming together and saying, we're just as smart, as good, as talented as everybody else. You don't have to go to Austin. You can go to Austin and go to South by Southwest. You can go to Atlanta and go to A3C. But in between that, if you are an independent artist, you're going to have to stop in Jackson, Mississippi and be a part of Jackson Indie Music Week just as well, because Mississippi is the birthplace of America's music. And why else would you not have something like that here in the States? So that's kind of what it is for me. It's fulfilling that people in other places are now seeing that we're doing this, is starting to get all the buzz that it's getting, and they're seeing that, wait a minute, this is in Jackson, Mississippi. Yes, in Jackson, Mississippi. Jackson, Mississippi is going to become an independent music hub by hook or by crook, and I think we have the group of people assembled to be able to do that. So a few years from now, hopefully when we pass this thing on to the next generation of people, you know, we'll be able to sit back and we'll be able to go to these shows and we'll be able to enjoy them on a much larger scale and be able to say we started something that has grown to this point. And people who are doing music are going to have to say, I've got to go to Jackson. If not during Jackson Indie Music Week, I've got to go play Jackson. And that brings people through here, that brings people in here that are going to spend money, that brings people in here that are going to be eating in our restaurants, staying in our hotels. Everything for me is like a big picture thing. Everything is like bringing people into town to spend money, to help shore up our tax base, to help this city grow. That's what it all really boils down to at the end of the day. So I want to keep bringing people here for whatever reason, and one of the main ways that you can get people to come anywhere is good music and good times. And if we do that, they'll come here and spend money, and that'll help the next generation of kids. And they might say to themselves, I don't have to leave after I graduate.